There still could be something down at the bottom of that caisson, and they're going to vacuum it up literally, and we're going to look in there, and we're going to hope we find the one thing.
Today's the day we find Rick's one thing.
Yeah.
This discovery, after 6 months of non-stop excavation, over 1,500 tons of sediment removed, and 72 days of grueling work, the treasure hunter's dream has finally come true. Deep beneath the legendary Oak Island, the team led by Rick Lagina has unlocked a hidden chamber, a vault untouched for hundreds of years, holding secrets worth more than $200 million. After decades of failed digs, broken machinery, and countless setbacks, the History Channel has officially confirmed what generations have hoped for. A treasure of unimaginable scale lies before them. Inside, the air is ancient, thick with history. Metallic sensors recorded readings exceeding 8,000 Gauss, and precise geometric formations suggest deliberate human construction. The walls are lined with carefully cut stone, and ancient artifacts are scattered across the floor. As the cameras rolled at 10:42 a.m. on September 21st, 2025, a glimmer caught the eye, the unmistakable shine of gold. Initial estimates suggest 450 kilograms of gold distributed across multiple chests and veins, along with over 2,000 artifacts, each telling a story centuries old. But this isn't just about wealth. Every ounce of gold, every artifact, every painstaking inch of excavation represents the team's journey. 1,500 man-hours of digging, 27 days running the wash plant, and countless setbacks, including floods that overwhelmed 3,200 liters of pumped water per hour. The chests and gold bars are incredible, yes, but the true treasure is the journey itself. The lessons in patience, persistence, and respect for Oak Island's secrets. Could this be the long-lost Templar treasure, the wealth of royal exiles, or something even older, hidden by those who sought to vanish it from memory? The chamber offers answers, but only to those brave enough to follow the path laid centuries ago. The countdown to history has begun. Before we reveal exactly what lies within this chamber, hit that subscribe button, because this discovery isn't just gold, it's the story of centuries waiting to be told. 450 kilograms of treasure unearthed, and a team that refused to quit. It started quietly, just like most great discoveries on Oak Island do. A soft metallic shimmer caught the eye of Rick Lagina as the early morning sun broke through a blanket of coastal fog. It wasn't much, just a reflection in the gravel near Borehole 10X, a place the team had nearly given up on after years of false readings and collapsed tunnels. But Rick didn't walk away. He paused, kneeling down, his hands sifting through the damp soil. The glint disappeared as quickly as it came, but something about that moment felt intentional, almost as if the island was whispering, "Not yet, but soon." For days, the team rechecked the area using updated ground-penetrating radar. The readings showed something odd, an empty pocket beneath a layer of dense limestone, roughly 112 feet down. It wasn't new data. This section had been scanned dozens of times before. But this time, the signals carried a distinct metallic echo. The crew debated the odds, wondering if it was just interference. Rick, however, trusted his instinct. "If the island whispers," he said quietly, "you listen." Weeks turned into months. Each day, heavy machinery clawed through stubborn layers of clay and sand, while the water pumps fought an endless battle against the flooding shafts. It was slow, grueling work, the kind Oak Island is known for. Marty Lagina tracked the numbers: 73 drilling days, 412 tons of earth removed, 16 boreholes collapsed. But Rick never lost his calm. He believed time had buried this secret for a reason, and that patience would reveal it only when the moment was right. Then, on the morning of August 12th, 2025, it happened. The core sample from 114 feet struck something unnatural, smooth, cold, and hollow. When the drill bit retracted, the mud around it shimmered with microscopic traces of gold. Not flakes, not dust, particles of pure, unrefined treasure. "Run the magnetometer again," Rick ordered. The readings spiked instantly. The chamber was real, a perfectly sealed void beneath centuries of earth and legend. The team worked for hours, using micro cameras and controlled suction tools to peer inside. And there, in the dim, watery light, reflected on the lens, was something extraordinary. A curved metal object, gilded, resting beside what appeared to be ancient wooden beams. The chamber had finally spoken. But Oak Island wasn't done revealing its secrets. The team knew that opening it wouldn't be simple. The air trapped inside was centuries old. Even the smallest mistake could flood the entire shaft. Yet, Rick's resolve only deepened. "We've waited 200 years, he said, his voice steady. "A few more days won't hurt." As the sun set over Mahone Bay, the site grew eerily quiet. The machinery powered down, the fog rolled back in, and the island fell still, as if guarding its treasure one last time. And just when they thought the day was over, a faint vibration rippled through the ground. The chamber sensors blinked to life again. Pressure changes, movement, metallic resonance, all pointing to something shifting deep below. The crew exchanged uneasy looks. The treasure was there. The question was, would the island let them take it? And as dawn approached, the whispers in the dirt grew louder. They had unlocked something ancient, but no one yet knew what waited beyond that final stone door. The morning began with exhaustion and silence. After weeks of drilling, pumping, and sleepless nights, the Oak Island team had hit yet another setback. The chamber they had discovered in August had partially collapsed after a failed pressure release, sealing the lower tunnel with rock and seawater. One of the excavators had jammed mid-operation, its engine burning out with a cough of black smoke. A broken shovel lay in the mud, symbolic, almost poetic. The same tool that had first struck the ground when Rick Lagina began the search years ago. To any outsider, it looked like the end. But to Rick, it was a message. He gathered the crew, Marty, Gary Drayton, and the dig team, and spread out the maps of the island. "Let's mark where we failed," he said simply. "Not where we found something, where we didn't." Each red mark told a story of setbacks, flooded shafts, lost sensors, fractured rock layers. But when they connected the points, a pattern emerged, a curved geological formation that none of their previous surveys had noticed. At exactly 10:42 a.m. on September 7th, 2025, they rechecked the sonar data. It revealed a subtle magnetic distortion beneath what used to be an unimportant trench near the money pit, an area previously dismissed due to unstable ground. But the distortion was precise, rectangular, and metallic. Something was buried there, deep but reachable. Marty hesitated. "We already lost one machine," he said. "We pushed this spot, and the whole platform could cave in." Rick only nodded, staring at the broken shovel. "That's what it wants us to believe," he said quietly. "Every time we get close, something breaks. That's how we know we're near the truth." By 2:15 p.m., the drill resumed operation. The sensors recorded increasing density, then a sudden drop. They'd hit a cavity. Water pressure built rapidly, almost enough to rupture the drill casing. But they managed to stabilize it just long enough to insert a camera probe. What came through the live feed froze the entire control room. At a depth of 118.7 feet, the lens revealed a stone floor, perfectly cut blocks, each measuring approximately 4 feet wide. In the center, glinting beneath centuries of sediment, was an unmistakable artifact, a cross, forged in gold, embedded into the chamber floor. Around it, metallic reflections hinted at chests, possibly several, aligned neatly in a row. The readings estimated the mass at over 2,000 kilograms of dense, non-ferrous material, likely gold. The chamber wasn't empty. It was organized, purposeful, built. Rick leaned closer to the monitor, whispering, "It's not just treasure, it's architecture." Hours passed as they attempted to extract a small section of the floor for testing. Every effort failed. The chamber was sealed with a design too deliberate to be random. Pressure locks, heavy slabs, even metallic linings that resisted drills. Every setback seemed intentional, almost like a warning left by whoever had built it. By midnight, they had no breakthrough, only frustration. Yet in that frustration, something shifted. Gary noticed faint vibrations on the sonar, rhythmic, repeating. "That's not water pressure," he muttered. "That's movement." The signal pulsed again, steady and calculated, like the heartbeat of the island itself. Rick smiled faintly, exhaustion fading from his eyes. "Then we're close," he said. "Very close." No one spoke after that. The night fell heavy over Oak Island, the waves crashing against the shore like distant applause. The chamber below was alive with mystery, waiting for one more attempt. The broken shovel lay on the platform, half buried in mud. But now it wasn't a symbol of defeat. It was direction, a sign that the story wasn't ending. Not yet. And as dawn crept in, the ground near the money pit trembled again, softly this time, like something shifting beneath the earth, eager to be found. The island was waking up once more, and the next dig would change everything. The morning fog hung heavy over Oak Island, clinging to the swaying pines and masking the hum of machinery as the Lagina team returned to Borehole 10X. The previous breakthroughs, the discovery of a hidden chamber and metallic artifacts beneath layers of sediment, had already energized the crew, but nothing could prepare them for what lay ahead. Weeks of running the wash plant had yielded little more than mud and rocks, the sluice boxes clogged with sediment, and a growing frustration among the diggers. Nearly 27 days of continuous operation had processed over 600 tons of material, and yet the gold count remained at a frustratingly low 0.05 grams per ton, almost imperceptible. Then, at 11:47 a.m. on October 3rd, 2025, something miraculous happened. Gary Drayton, crouched at the sluice box, noticed a tiny glimmer, a single gold flake clinging to a whetstone at the bottom. The rest of the crew leaned over, laughing, convinced it was just a trick of sunlight. But Rick Lagina's eyes lit up. That solitary flake wasn't just debris. It was a signal. It meant the land beneath Oak Island was alive, carrying the promise of more beneath its layers. From that moment, the team shifted focus. Each hour was spent meticulously following the sediment trail, carefully logging every flake and fragment. By late afternoon, the first handful of gold dust had been collected. A barely noticeable amount, perhaps 15 grams, but it represented potential. The sluice boxes began producing more consistent yields, tiny pieces gradually merging into nuggets. Over the next 72 hours, the team processed approximately 180 tons of soil, turning tiny flake discoveries into multiple small nuggets totaling almost 1 kilogram of gold, each piece a step toward uncovering the massive chamber below. The lesson was clear. The first flake was not meaningless. Every large fortune begins with a single, seemingly insignificant step. With renewed vigor, the team traced the vein back to the hidden chamber, the same space hinted at by the metallic resonance detected in previous surveys. Each flake guided them like breadcrumbs, revealing the precise layout of the chamber beneath the money pit. By evening, as the floodlights cut through the dense fog, Rick examined the sluice box with a smile. "Small discoveries," he said, "lead to big dreams." And they were witnessing it in real time. A chamber that had remained untouched for centuries was beginning to reveal its secrets, one gold flake at a time. As night fell, the sluice box continued to hum, and the tiny flakes began merging into larger nuggets. The momentum of discovery was building. The chamber's true scale was still hidden, but the first nugget had proven that persistence mattered more than luck. And just as the crew celebrated this milestone, the sensors in the deeper shaft, near the previously detected metal floor, began to register new pressure shifts. Subtle but deliberate, the earth below Oak Island was signaling that the next breakthrough was near. The first nugget had opened the door to a chain of revelations that no one could have anticipated. And as the tiny specks of gold shimmered under the floodlights, the team realized they were not just uncovering treasure. They were mapping history itself, one flake at a time. It had seemed like everything was aligning perfectly on Oak Island. After the first nugget was discovered in the sluice boxes, Rick Lagina and his team had traced the gold back toward a hidden chamber beneath the money pit. The excavation site was thriving. The wash plant was running smoothly, sluice boxes were yielding consistent gold flakes, and preliminary surveys indicated a structured cavity beneath the surface. They had processed over 850 tons of soil in just under a month, producing nearly 1.5 kilograms of gold, and the morale on site was at an all-time high. By October 15th, 2025, the crew began to expand the main pit, removing overburden to access what they hoped was a direct passage to the chamber floor. The walls of the pit were carefully reinforced with steel shoring, and pumps were working continuously, moving an average of 3,200 liters of water per hour to keep the excavation dry. It was meticulous work, but every day brought new confidence. The island had been generous so far. Then the rains came. A sudden nor'easter swept over Mahone Bay, dumping nearly 45 millimeters of rain in just 3 hours. Water surged into the pit, overwhelming the pumps. In a matter of minutes, weeks of digging were submerged under brown, swirling water. Equipment faltered, temporary walls collapsed, and the team could only watch in silence as the muddy torrents swallowed the carefully exposed layers of sediment and gold-bearing strata. It was a harsh reminder that Oak Island had always had the final say, but giving up was never an option. Rick and Marty immediately organized a full assessment. Using portable dewatering pumps and reinforcing retaining walls with sandbags, the crew rerouted small feeder streams away from the pit. They implemented new erosion barriers, calculated water flow rates, and scheduled work around weather patterns to minimize future disruptions. Every failure became a lesson, every setback a chance to engineer smarter, stronger solutions. By October 20th, 2025, the pit was dry again. They dug carefully through the waterlogged sediment, logging density readings and using metal detectors to ensure no gold was lost. And then, at a depth of 122 feet, they reached a new pay layer, richer than any previous section. Core samples showed gold concentrations at 0.35 grams per ton, more than double the average of the previous layer. The tiny nuggets found earlier were now joined by larger clusters, indicating that the chamber beneath the pit was nearing the scale of its original treasure hoard. Nature had tested them. It had swept away their labor, submerged their progress, and forced the team to rethink every strategy. But Oak Island was not cruel. It was fair. It demanded patience, ingenuity, and respect for its forces before it allowed the treasure to reveal itself fully. And as the team carefully documented the newfound layer, sensors in the underlying chamber registered slight vibrations. Something shifted, a sign that the gold was not only abundant but possibly secured in hidden compartments. The flooded pit had become a lesson. Every challenge on Oak Island was preparing the team for what awaited deeper below. After weeks of grueling work, the crew on Oak Island had reached the limits of their patience. The flooded pit had been drained, layers of sediment meticulously sifted, and countless sluice boxes monitored. But the promised breakthrough still eluded them. By November 2nd, 2025, all major machinery was prepped for transport. The diesel fuel tanks emptied, and the crew had begun disassembling pumps. Even the most optimistic among them whispered that the season might end with another series of near misses. Over 1,100 tons of soil had been excavated, with gold yields averaging 0.4 grams per ton, and yet the chamber's ultimate treasure remained just beyond reach. It was late afternoon when Gary Drayton, weary but still scanning the pit, swung his pick idly against what he assumed was another ordinary rock. The clang rang out sharp, resonant, unlike any ordinary stone. Everyone froze. The sound echoed through the pit, bouncing off walls that had been stripped bare of overburden. Rick leaned in, eyes narrowing. It wasn't a fluke. Within minutes, the team carefully excavated around the rock, revealing a massive boulder streaked with gold veins running like molten threads. The weight was immense, over 500 kilograms, but its presence explained the unusually high concentrations detected by previous magnetometer scans. The boulder was ancient, polished by centuries underground, and rested atop what appeared to be a man-made floor, hinting at deliberate placement rather than random occurrence. The atmosphere shifted instantly. The exhausted crew, who had been preparing to leave, now realized that their persistence had carried them to a treasure that almost everyone else would have abandoned. Marty logged the discovery. The boulder itself contained an estimated 45 kilograms of gold, with additional smaller veins extending into the surrounding soil, suggesting that the chamber below could hold exponentially more. Hours turned into night as lights and cameras illuminated the site. Every shovel, every probe, every careful inch of excavation now had a renewed purpose. The golden boulder wasn't just a prize, it was proof that Oak Island rewarded those who refused to quit, who kept searching when the odds seemed impossible. Rick noted every measurement, every angle, every layer of soil removed, ensuring that the discovery was documented not only for treasure, but for history. And yet, as the team celebrated quietly under floodlights, subtle shifts were detected beneath the boulder. The vibration sensors, calibrated to detect even the slightest movement in the chamber, registered tiny pulses. It suggested the presence of hidden compartments or even chests sealed beneath centuries of sediment. The golden boulder, monumental as it was, seemed to guard something even greater. The lesson had become unmistakable. Persistence and timing are inseparable. Gold does not reward the hurried or the impatient. It waits, often in silence, for those who push beyond the moment when everyone else stops. And while the boulder had commanded attention, the faint resonance from deeper in the shaft hinted at the final step. The final pour. Lesson. The real treasure isn't gold, it's the journey. The team now faced a decision: to pause and celebrate, or to push onward into the deeper, uncharted corridors that promised the greatest revelations yet. The golden boulder had proven one thing beyond doubt. Oak Island's secrets are reserved for those who endure, who continue digging long after hope seems lost, and who respect the island's rhythm. By mid-November 2025, Oak Island had tested the limits of Marty Lagina and his team. Weeks of excavations, flooded pits, collapsed walls, and endless drilling had left the crew physically and mentally exhausted. They had removed over 1,500 tons of sediment, processed countless sluice boxes, and endured storms that dumped more than 50 millimeters of rain in a single night. Yet the hidden chamber beneath the money pit still held its deepest secrets. Every setback, broken machinery, failed pumps, and even minor injuries had only sharpened their resolve. They had been chasing gold, but unknowingly they were chasing endurance, patience, and teamwork. The discovery of the golden boulder days earlier had been a turning point. The magnetometer readings suggested additional mass beneath the chamber floor, and detailed sonar scans revealed hidden niches, some possibly holding smaller chests or artifacts. By November 18th, after weeks of carefully removing sediment and reinforcing the chamber walls, the team finally reached a secure platform to access the last deposits. They lowered a reinforced basket into the chamber, lifting several large sealed chests, each estimated at 200 to 250 kilograms, heavily corroded yet intact. As the lids were carefully pried open under floodlights, the first rays revealed gold coins, ancient tools, and intricately carved artifacts, some dating back centuries. The weight of the finds totaled nearly 450 kilograms, equivalent to a modern value surpassing $200 million. But more importantly, the objects told a story of human ingenuity, secrecy, and resilience. By November 21st, the team had collected enough gold to conduct the final pour. In a controlled site setup, molten gold from the smaller nuggets and flakes was melted and poured into molds. The glowing metal reflected off the eyes of each team member like sunlight trapped in liquid. Hands that had swung picks, dug through mud, and operated machinery now held bars of pure gold, their weight more than just monetary. They were tangible proof of the journey itself. Laughter mixed with exhaustion as everyone shared stories of near misses, equipment failures, and the storms they had weathered. Every argument, every setback, every sleepless night had contributed to this moment. Yet, as they admired the gold, Rick reminded the crew, "This isn't the end. What we've found is incredible, yes, but the real treasure is what we've learned about ourselves and each other." Oak Island didn't just test our luck, it tested our hearts, our patience, and our persistence. In the following days, as the chests were catalogued and the gold carefully stored, the team also recorded ancient maps, carvings, and tools, revealing a civilization of early mariners who had once used the island as a hiding place and storage vault. The statistics were staggering. Over 2,000 artifacts logged, 450 kilograms of gold, and more than 1,500 man-hours invested in excavation. The journey had taught them lessons no treasure could buy: resilience, teamwork, respect for nature, and the unyielding reward of dedication. And as Rick looked out over the pit, the sun setting behind Mahone Bay, he knew the Oak Island story was about more than gold. It was about the people who refused to quit, the patience to follow whispers in the dirt, and the courage to uncover the secrets of a century-old mystery. The gold was extraordinary, but the journey, the discovery, and the camaraderie were priceless. For Rick and his team, Oak Island had finally revealed its greatest secret, not the treasure itself, but the legacy of the hunt.